All right, folks, welcome to Rams Brawl. This is Derek Ciapala with the men in charge, the men of the hour, Arlen Harris and Tommy Polley, former Rams running back and linebacker. Gentlemen, it's been a week. It's been a crazy week. Arlen, how you doing, man? Starting with you.
You know, it's a mixed feelings on where we are right now as our country. You know, we still got a pandemic going on, and it's hard to watch and hear about all the destruction going on in the cities and just how people are responding to different injustices. You know, it's mixed emotions as being a African American male, and you know, just being able to compartmentalize certain things and talking to my sons about it, my kids, just about, you know, some of those hard conversations on how to filter it. But all in all, man, I can't complain. You know, my family's healthy and, you know, ready. We're getting closer and closer to, you know, start some football up.
Tommy, how you doing?
I'm like with Arlen with mixed emotions. I feel bad for what happened to George Floyd. I feel bad what's going on in the country, but I think it's something that may be needed to maybe you know, turn the country around a little bit to make it work for everybody, not just a certain few. So I think that's what's happening now. But having to have that conversations like that with my son, I mean, I never enjoyed doing that. Neither one of them. Last year I bought my son a car, so he called me one day like, "Hey, Dad, the police pulled me over." I'm like, "Well, you good? Give me license." They say, "No, the tag's no good." I say, "Man, them tags brand new. I just bought that car. Ain't nothing wrong with them tags. Nothing wrong with them tags." They're like, "Nah, they saying these tags temp tag." Now, I had mind you, it had a hard tag on it. So at the moment, so I was like, "Well, where the cop at?" He said, "Well, he's behind me." I said, "Man, you be all right. Right now, there's a racial profiling. I mean, it's just something you got to get used to." And I was basically laughing at him for real. Like, "Oh, this your first time getting profiled?" Oh, I forgot to tell you that when you get your car, like, driving while black is a thing. So that was his first experience with it. And that was before I already had to have a conversation with him. So I talked to my second son the other night. He on the bed. He's trying to see what happened. And he got a big heart. They did these tests on him for school, and his empathy level was real high. He was like the highest you ever seen. His empathy is caring. So he'd cry at the drop of a dime. So we telling him what happened to George Floyd, and his eyes just swelled up with tears and all that, and he was fighting back his tears and all that, and I had just had to stop because I didn't want to ruin his innocence by telling him this maybe could happen to you. I mean, that's just a hard conversation to have. So, but separate from that, we on a good note, we got back. We started having meetings with the kids. You know, for spacing. We're in phase 1 of that. So we want to meet 10 at a time, going through that process. So that's been good. Being around the kids again, that always seemed to keep me young, and just why I coach is to give back to the youth. So, so it's a good thing to be back with them. So, like Arlen said, I'm mixed with emotions, but you know, it's something that you got to deal with.
It's been a crazy week too. We're talking about we're a Los Angeles Rams podcast, but the news concerning the Rams is dead. There's no news in the Rams. All we've seen the last 7-8 days has been, well, the George Floyd and the protests, the rioting, the looting, the death, the violence, and now some players are starting to say their piece about it as well. One of the big things that came out recently was Drew Brees making his comments, and he's not alone, by the way. He's not alone. So, Drew Brees, man, do I even want to go there? I have to go there. But Drew Brees states, "I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag in comments to the Take a Knee protests." Okay. That is something that was talked about earlier today. Quickly, many folks gave their comments, and especially Aaron Rodgers posts on Instagram, LeBron James, numerous folks. Tommy, I know that you and Arlen both have pretty big thoughts on this. Where do you go? Like, what are your thoughts on a quarterback, a leader, a future Hall of Famer making comments on the kneeling, the protest, the flag, so on and so forth?
Well, for me, like I was just saying about my 10-year-old son, how he showed empathy. Not that he can feel it or he can understand it, but he can at least show empathy of what some of his brothers are going through. You understand? Or his family, when they're breaking it down, family or your brothers were going through. If your blood brother was going something, he was hurting, won't you feel a certain way? You feel like, you ain't going to brush it off. Just because you're feeling that way, I'm still going to do that. No, you're going to feel empathy. So you know what? I might want to hold my thought first instead of going out and saying, well, maybe how I truly feel or what I truly feel. I'm going to show a little empathy for my brother because he's hurting. So, I mean, just for him, he just showing no empathy from all the guys that's on his team, all the black guys who got to catch his passes, who they got to see every day in the locker room and interact with. And he's the leader of that team. And his best player on offense next to him is Michael Thomas, who's a black guy. So how does he feel when his uncle or somebody maybe the night before the game or 2 nights before the game, police beat him up or something happened to his homeboy at home? You would want him to come in and play well, so you'll try to give him a pat on the back and give him some words of wisdom. But so in this case right here, he's hurting. This should be the same thing. It should be the same thing to all. Hey, I'm with you guys. I support you guys who's all hurting. That's all he had to say. But he still want to stick to his guns. And I didn't know the protest was about disrespecting the flag. I thought it was about police brutality. But, I mean, that's just my idea. So I guess we got different thoughts on it. I don't know. Go ahead, Arlen.
Yeah, man. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the good thing about sports, and especially football. We talk about it being the best sport in the world. Well, it's a melting pot, not just of talent, but everybody's background. I mean, races, economic status. I mean, everything. I mean, you were allowed a couple years back. Now you got, guys that, are part of the LGBT community. There's so many things that we've opened the door to. So like Tommy said, having empathy and just being sympathetic to somebody that doesn't look like you, might not have grew up like you, that's bred in the locker room. So whether you agree with, how the people always talk about, don't talk about religion, politics, and, whatever else you want to throw in there. And for him to use his platform, because I'm a Drew Brees, that used to be my guy. And I was offended in the sense of I thought you would be more strategic in putting it out there because, again, listen, we talked about a lens. We've all were born different. Single-parent home, two-parent home, black, white, urban, rural. You can go through all that stuff and see why people have different behavioral issues. I'm minored in psychology. It ain't rocket science at the end of the day to not, you can say your view or not project it onto somebody else. And right now with the way the country is, and even international, people are protesting internationally, and your knee-jerk reaction off of, the police brutality, obviously people are sensitive to it, is for you to defend the flag. That's a discussion that, to me, that had nothing to do with what's going on right now. Now, some people can't split the two. Again, that's their lens. People go through when Cap was going through the whole thing, and you see how many people are standing in line to get something to eat during the national anthem, got their hats on, they're sitting down. They said, your background's in the military. The way we roll out that flag on the field is supposed to be disrespectful. And then to say, hey, no matter what, no matter what, there's no space for him in his world to disrespect the flag and kneeling. Then people are posting pictures of you kneeling with your brothers, so you look hypocritical. Then you throw the heart out there with your grandfathers, like you're the only person in generations that fought. My grandfather fought, but guess what? When he came home, he still experienced racism. He wasn't considered a man, my great-grandfather, so you could come fight and come back. Your welcome party was totally different than that. And then my dad's youngest, my nephew, my dad's youngest brother, my uncle, was killed in his own bunker in Germany by 3 white guys because he whistled at a white woman. So that's the experience. You might not know that. I don't wave that flag, but dude, my grandmother had to fly over to Germany, and basically the only way he was recognized because of his birthmark on the bottom of his foot. So that's what I'm talking about right now in our country. We're so like defensive. Like everybody wants to get their point across. I'm on all social media sites. I didn't post no statuses. I haven't commented on nobody's stuff because for me, at the end of the day, me saying what Arlen Harris feels is not going to bring George back. It's not going to change no laws in the White House. It ain't going to make somebody less racist that might have been born into that household. So I'm just sitting back listening, being sensitive to people's views and figuring out, okay, how can I protect my family, raise my family in this type of environment and not sound corny, but spread love or be a light in this dark world. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, but what did he really do to deserve that? We're not seeing the whole story. These are people that I know, mind you. I'm reading their statuses that I go to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your reaction is to figure out, well, what did he do to warrant this type of treatment? So I think there's always going to be a disconnect. And unfortunately, celebrities, entertainers, whatever have you, that have a platform and visibility like they do, for you to come out and voice that is unfortunate. And you see people reacting to it. So he got to double down on it.
Now, just for the record, before we move on, just so you guys are aware, he was asked what he thinks about players kneeling again when the NFL season starts. So he was asked the question. So he was kind of put in that position about how he feels now. That's not to defend him, but he was asked about it. I would.
Come on, Drew Brees, a 20-year vet. He know how to dance. He know how to dance.
That's where I was going next. If you were him,
come on,
and if you were him and that question's asked of you, what do you say, knowing what's going on in the world?
So at this time right now, I choose not to answer what's going on in the world. Like, we'll cross that bridge maybe when we come. Something like that. He answered that strong. Like,
it's
flag, and that's it. And at this time right here, when stuff's still burning, I don't know. That's all I'm saying. My mom always told me, if it ain't nice, sometimes don't say it. Keep it to yourself. So I think you could have not answered the question. Simple. You know how to do it.
Well,
I mean, honestly, I think, again, like you said, the position he plays, leader, franchise, he's the face of the Saints. Dancing away from it, people would have dug into that, and he would have been damned if you don't. But why not get both perspectives? Like, you asked about kneeling, but again, you brought up the flag. Like, we still missing it. If you're talking about, even Goodell came out, put out a statement, we back up Colin Kaepernick, and even the president, governor, everybody saying peaceful protest. Last time I checked, kneeling in silence, not in the middle of the field, nobody running around, nobody waving their hands, getting attention. Kneeling is a peaceful protest, but people are being condemned by that. And then he could have just went around and say, hey, it's sad what our country's going through right now. I'm not going as far as like, oh man, Drew Brees is racist. Like, I know, like, there's no way he played this long to be a racist. But he might have different stereotypes, or be able to, his truth is his truth. Because in theory, what he said is not wrong to him. If he's offended by someone and he disrespecting a flag, absolutely. Some people are going to take that, you do not disrespect our flag. And yes, I have a history of people fighting for this flag. Cool. But again, Colin Kaepernick and that's why the question was asked. He even asked the Army vet, man, and it kills me that we keep dancing around that. He asked a white Marine, what can I do? And he told him, kneel. We skip over that. We go right to, that's disrespectful. Oh, man, I fought, and you know how many people gave you the right? Okay, man, but this was advice for him. He thought he was doing it for this, not to be disrespectful. And he said multiple times, it's not about the flag. I know there's good cops. It's not meant to disrespect, but we keep going and putting so much value and credit into this cloth that I'm pretty sure if I go to Drew Brees' house, you probably can't even find a flag at the house. So why are we got this, patriotic, like, oh, my flag, my flag? It sounds great. I stand up, put my hand over, you know what I mean, and give respect to it. Because I've had a lot of people, in that flag, and I know people that fight for our freedoms, no matter what color they are, what, I have family members of Vietnam, all that stuff. I feel like he could have answered it and maybe detoured and say, hey, what's going on in our country is really sad. As far as confronting police brutality, I get it. I'm gonna back up my brothers. If it goes to the point to where they're disrespecting the flag, whether it's kneeling, so there's ways that he could have spun it, but he took the attention off why guys were kneeling, and that's to me the issue. That like people keep saying it and standing and yelling and texting and tweeting and calling an interview, and somehow it just gets turned into disrespecting the flag. You know what I mean? So,
two things that you're saying. First, his actual quote, just so people actually have the context, I'll quote it for you. I will never agree with anybody disrespecting the flag of the United States of America or our country. Let me just tell what I see or what I feel when the national anthem is played. And when I look at the flag of the United States, I envision my two grandfathers who fought for this country during World War II, one in the Army, one in the Marine Corps, both risking their lives to protect our country and to make our country and this world a better place. So every time I stand with my hand over my heart, looking at that flag and singing the national anthem, that's what I think about. And in many cases, that brings me to tears, thinking about all that has been sacrificed. Not just those in the military, but for that matter, those throughout the civil rights movements of the 1960s, or just the 60s. Yeah, and all that has been endured by so many people up to this point. And is everything right in our country right now? No, it is not. We still have a long way to go. But I think what you do by saying there and showing respect to the flag with your hand over your heart, it shows unity. It shows that we are all in this together. We can all do better, and we can all be part of the solution. That whole context of it, when you hear the whole thing, what are your thoughts when that whole perspective is given?
Same thing. He was asked about kneeling, right?
Yeah.
That was his response to kneeling, right?
That was his response to being asked about kneeling again when the NFL season starts.
Yeah, those are two. That has nothing to do with it.
So he believes the kneeling is disrespecting the flag.
Correct. Yeah, you got it, Bridget, too. He wouldn't have gave that answer. Yeah. And you also, like, that's the thing. Like, you also got to understand, and I think Malcolm Jenkins said it beautifully. Everybody's experiences are different, right? No one wants to talk about the hard stuff or the uncomfortable stuff. If you break down our national anthem, that's not for African Americans. You can break down, say, the land of the free, reunited. You can just watch the whole thing. Like, that was not written for us in mind. Now, we can spin that, and that can make people uncomfortable. Same thing with that flag. This does not mean the same thing for people that were enslaved to help build this country. So that is, again, essentially, without getting too deep, he don't understand it. That's what some conversations are in some people's homes. You know what I mean? Some people feel like there's an identity crisis there. You know what I mean? Again, I don't want to get too deep into that, but I just feel like I can't. Someone gave a perfect analogy. My wife had 3 kids. I can't sit there and tell my wife, I'm sitting there, hold her hand, hey, baby, breathe, push, tell her what everything and read the books and what the doctors say, but I will never understand the pain she's going through. I will never understand what it's like to carry somebody for 9 months. That's not my right to tell her, oh, come on, babe, you don't need to take that epidural. You suck it out. Suck it up. that, like, you know what I mean? Because that would sound crazy, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing, I have a friend close to the family, and they're battling breast cancer. My grandmother died of breast cancer. People don't say, okay, when it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, prostate cancer matters too. Brain cancer matters too. Like, that's the defense and the deflection that I think people are having a problem with. And I get it's uncomfortable, but like Tommy said, if it's uncomfortable, don't say nothing.
Tommy, your thoughts?
Again, man, just show empathy for other people. That's it. Sometimes you just got to meet them where they at. Are you feeling this way, brother? I'm with you. Man, whatever I can do to, make your pain go away, I'm here for you. That's it. That's all people should do. When they started trying to feel and think for other people, that's when the problems come in at. Just because your experience, like all I'm saying, might not be my lived experience. So Drew Brees is going to go out on the field and throw to Michael Thomas, who Michael Thomas' experience in life experience is a whole different thing than than Drew Brees. So, I mean, just in that sense, you got to understand, like, meet him where they at. Like, even as a coach, I mean, to be an effective coach, especially in today's day with these youth. Back in the day when I played, coaches tell you what to do, you did it. Left, right. That's it. And you left, right. Well, now today's kids, you got to tell them the why. If you don't tell them the why, it's not going to get across. It's not going to get accomplished. So nowadays, like I was telling you earlier, we just dealt with the stuff. We just got left, right. Do this, do that. Don't go ahead. Don't deal with this person. Don't talk to that person. We dealt with it. But now what's happening, everything is so commingled. Everybody listen to each other's music and hang around each other. These kids, they're not going for that. So it's a few people out here with your numbers, and then a few other people might have to think everything the world is good. But the world, the masses, everywhere, New England, all the way to California, they think the world and the police ain't right, and for their own experiences or for their friends' experiences, and then they have empathy for that person. You know what? I feel you, bro. All right, and that's it. And then that's how this stuff going to change when people start feeling empathy and get out their own feelings and I don't see it. Well, okay, that don't mean it ain't happening. We don't see God every day, do we? But people pray to God every day.
So, all that in mind, some teammates are stepping up to criticize him, and one former teammate also stepping up and defending him. This is Joe Horn, former wide receiver. This is what he had to say. People should not be throwing Drew Brees under the bus, and they definitely need to pump the brakes on labeling him a racist, Horn said. I'm quoting from Yahoo Sports article. I know Drew Brees. Drew has done a lot to help black families in the black community in New Orleans. If Drew Brees didn't love black families and low-income families, he wouldn't have helped the way he has over the years. People that are criticizing him, like LeBron James and other celebrities, don't know him, and they check his resume. I love my race, and I love New Orleans to death, but I know Drew Brees, and Drew is a good person. Until you've walked beside him and gotten to know him, his family, and his wife and his family, you definitely have to give him a pass on this one and allow Drew a chance to think about what he said and come back to make this right, and I know he will. And that was from Joe Horn.
I don't think Drew's a racist, but it can be unsympathetic. You can be two things, right? You can be unsympathetic, right? You can and the things of that nature. I just unsympathetic. I mean, you don't have no empathy. You don't feel what other people pain. Maybe you don't. Maybe try to feel what they feel. He's in his world. He's Drew Brees. $100 million contract. I mean, his world is great. So, and I don't think it was ever any thing that came to jump in there. You know, he never had no problem with the police. He don't have to worry about getting pulled over. He don't have to worry about people kicking in his door and running in his house. Nah, because when you look on the thing, they go see Drew Brees, and he's good. So, Drew Brees not a racist. Did he say the wrong thing? Yeah, he said the wrong thing. Just own it. I mean, not to him, but to somebody else. To him, he feel like, to me, he's going to stand on what he said. If I know Drew, he's going to stand on that. I mean, he really meant that. That don't make it right. If that's what I mean. Just because you said that don't make it right for other people. For you, maybe, but not for somebody else.
Arlen, anything you want to add to that?
I mean, you can see, Horn, clearly has a good relationship with them. They've gone to war with each other and maybe did some stuff off the field. But you see at the end where he said, give him an opportunity to make it right or to correct it. That means that he's done something wrong. In my opinion, he's done nothing wrong. If he spoke his truth and that's how he received that question, I don't think he should change it for other people. If that's what you feel, that's what you feel. And then just know people are going to have opinions about it. Just like you said, there's a lot of people that are backing him up or that agree or didn't receive it or filter it as such. I think the biggest thing is because he plays in the sport that he plays. I don't know what his youth looked like, but from college to the NFL, he's probably played or one time or another interacted with an African American male. So I think that's why people are shocked of maybe that not being as sensitive as he was. But man, ain't no wrong in that. I mean, he said what he said.
Yeah, you gotta live with it. Stand on it.
I just from I guess the white guy in the room's perspective, I look at it two ways. I guess I'm a veteran. You guys know that. When I signed the dotted line, I swore to protect, to honor the Constitution. I'm also a history teacher, and I know the terms under which that Constitution was written. I know the arguments that took place between the founding fathers. I know that the white elephant in the room at the time of the Constitution being written was slavery, and how they feared slavery, if they tried to stop it at the time, would tear apart the Union, and they believed that it would fall apart on its own. Well, it did almost 100 years later, so they were right and wrong there. But it doesn't change the fact that it existed in this country. It doesn't change the fact that it happened. It doesn't change the fact that it still affects our lives today, one way or the other. So, if I'm honest, I don't like the kneeling. I think hear me out, because that moment with the national anthem, with the flag, and I'm consistent on this, by the way. I remember a couple years ago going to a U.S. national team match against Jamaica, and a couple of fans there were carrying on like idiots, and it offended me then too. So I'm consistent on it. It bothers me anytime during the national anthem if we're not just, that's the moment where it's on the flag. But I'm also going to defend your right to protest, dude. It's a First Amendment right. It's constitutional, and you need to be heard. Whether or not I agree with the protest itself, it doesn't matter. You need to be heard, because there's a reason why you're protesting. Why, we protest for a reason. We need to hear why. And it's clear we have a problem within the African American community when it comes to at least some law enforcement, if not all. And right now it's shredding our country. So we got to fix it. And because I'm ignorant in a lot of ways.
Real quick.
Sure. Let me finish this one sentence. Just let me finish once. I said I'm ignorant in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of things I need to learn in life, but we need to honor the protests. So go ahead, hammer me. What's your question? Come get me.
I ain't gonna have you. I want to ask you a question. The soldier that told the Marine that told Kaepernick to take a knee, how do you feel about that? Like, did he tell him something wrong? He wasn't supposed to tell him that.
It's. If anything, I would say that
he was offended like you. Listen, go ahead.
When it comes to Kaepernick, there are things with Kaepernick himself, the wearing of the socks, the Castro shirt, that make it harder for me with him. But the overall, I understand the man's advice, and quite frankly, it's better advice than telling him, "Hey, go sit down on the bench and ignore the flag." But you know what? At the Olympics in 1968? Black Power raising the fists. Robert Quinn did it in the game.
What happened to those guys?
I guess we can go there with that too. I'm just saying that me personally, I didn't like it. And I would have supported, and I still support the right to protest for him. I just wish it would have been done in a different way. But that's me personally. I understand why. I'm going to support it. Anybody who's protesting right now and not killing anybody, I believe there are two different things going on there. The honest to goodness protesters who are concerned, who want to see solutions, they should be heard. Then you have some idiots coming in and hijacking that and blowing crap up. And that's the horrible part of it. Losing Officer Dorn is horrible. A man who lived his life, served well, tried to stop something horrible from happening and loses his life for it.
George Floyd fans feel the same way. You see how both of them feel the same way. Both of them.
Losing George Floyd.
That family.
And George Floyd, to me, Tommy, was like watching the life leave him. and seeing the video of watching Mr. Dorn's life leaving him. It's like I'm watching something dystopian because that's something a scene you'd see in books. Dystopian in nature. Stephen King's The Stand. There's a scene like that in his original book. And this is 1977. So it's disturbing on so many levels. I hope you can see the
I also think
the conflict there for me.
But I also think the COVID-19 has exposed the living wage, the inequities of the money, how much people got, how much people make. I think it just opened it up. So I think it's just a whole combination from COVID, everybody got to stay in the house, to people living paycheck to paycheck, to the 1%ers. Like, it's a whole thing. It ain't just when the police brutality. I mean, with George Floyd dying, it just exacerbated the whole thing, which was already brewing from the bottom up. It was already brewing. People was already mad because they out of work, can't go outside, don't have no money, unemployed. I mean, everything. So I think the officers is lit the match, but it was already bubbling from the on the bottom. So I think with the people protest, you got peaceful protest, these factions of groups from white people that's looting to the black wild dudes they're looting as well, right? But I think it comes from people that don't have much. They don't have anything. I was listening to a billionaire. He was talking last night about how much minimum wage really supposed to be. I was listening to him on the radio. He was like, minimum wage supposed to be like $24. I mean, you got some people around here making $7.50. I mean, how people gonna live off that? So all this just exposed it. People in poor neighborhoods get treated worse than people live in rich neighborhoods, right? That's just part of it.
Yeah.
Who are the poor people? Mostly they black and Latino. So that's who the people that get picked on. This how the world went. That's how the world go, and that's what the people trying to change.
Arlen, you've been quiet, man. You got any thoughts?
No, I mean, it hasn't been that long. I know we want to talk a little sports, but just segregation, Jim Crow. In theory, it hasn't been that long. So there's a lot of open wounds where people think there might have been scabs, but there's still a lot of hurt there. But with the football thing, I think it's pretty cool with how the Rams was the first, and he was a running back. TP, bring on the first African American football players in the NFL, and really you could really argue the first two. You know what I mean, with Kenny Washington and then Woody Strode. But when you start looking at those guys' stories and kind of what we're all talking about, the state of the world, it hasn't been that long. Like you said, you're a historian. Like I can talk to my great grandmother lived till she was 102. Like hearing her stories is like rock your world. So it hasn't been long. Like, so I think those are just the conversations, man. Just that's going to continue to be had because it's that's just part of it. And
here's my concern, and I think it will. I mean, it's leaking into sports now. I think for everybody, whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're white or black or Hispanic or anything, the one unifying point for a large portion of our population, it's sports. It's American sports. It's the NFL. It's Major League Baseball. It's the NBA. It's the NHL. Even MLS. I mean, it's the American sports. And when it continues to get into our sports this way, it's just a sign that it's, to me, it's almost falling apart. That we have to, at some point, start tackling these issues. Like, I think back to Michael Brown and Ferguson and Eric Garner in New York, and every time one of these things happens, we get upset about it. We see protests about it, and then it kind of filters away. And politicians tell you they're going to deal with it, and they never do. So sooner or later, we actually have to stay with it and demand those conversations. I mean, I'm going to go wrap this back around to an early conversation Tommy and I were having, and that was, why is it that my 41-year-old buddy can be driving home at 9:11 p.m. and
the Rooney Rule.
Yeah, driving home at 11 p.m. and see that a cop behind him and get nervous. He's 41 years old, clean record, family man. Why can't we not start really getting in depth with police departments, the African American community? Why are we not pushing as a society for more and more of those discussions to try and figure out better ways to make things happen? And I guess I'm naive there, Tommy and Arlen. I'm naive. And Arlen, you just mentioned just now about the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule in the NFL, where you're supposed to interview an African American candidate whenever you have a coaching vacancy up. And I think they've now expanded the GM, right? So we have a shortage of African American coaches in the NFL. Why? Anybody want to guess?
Bias. It's the bias. It's a bias. I mean, it's flat out. They want to somebody they're going to deal with on a continuous basis. Somebody that the owner got running their organization. They want somebody they can probably feel as though they can relate to on a deeper level. And it's 9 times out of 10 it's somebody that looks like it. So it's a natural bias. So you're going to hire most of the time people that that look like you. And that's just how it goes. I mean, they did a study. I thank God my mom named me Tommy. Because I'm always going to get that call back for some reason. But if my name was Tomanisa, I don't know.
I saw a video
that called me back.
Saw a video with Jamal and Kevin, and Jamal wasn't getting calls back. Kevin was.
We ain't getting that call back. Yeah, Kevin was. So that's the true thing. It's just a bias people have. And fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, besides you want, white people have always been at the top of the food chain making all the decisions. In the NFL, since we NFL talking that, there's not one owner, one owner in the league, and that's the Jacksonville guy. How many GMs is it? 1 or 2? And how many coaches is it? 4. And 70% of your players are black. So that's telling me y'all good enough to play for us. Y'all can work this field, but y'all ain't getting in this house. I mean, that just how I look at it. Do I think it's personal? It's hard to say no, but you look at the owners. They're white males. They're gonna hire the people that they know or can relate to, and that's just how it's gonna be forever. Far as I see, I mean, you might have 1 or 2 get in there. It's never gonna be like basketball. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Basketball is a progressive game. Their fans is multicultural. They're black. Their players, their top players in the league are black. They run the league. Chris Paul, LeBron James, stuff like that. When the NFL, guess who run the league? Quarterbacks. Guess who they are? They're white guys. So they always going to set the tone for whatever their agenda is, or going to want to hurt our agenda. So we're not going to really deal with this situation over here because it ain't good for us. So I think it's always going to be like that until the top of the food chain change. It ain't going to ever change.
All right, guys. I think it's probably time. I think we've beaten this one, but Arlen, I want to hear your thoughts just to get us out of here.
Yeah, I think just with the Rooney Rule, man, it's to me, I don't know why the shock value when we talk about this stuff, because it's, the majority rules, right? You know what I mean? So as minorities continue to fight and progress, you talked about quarterback at one time, there was no black quarterbacks. They didn't believe that they were capable to play that position. And even still with some of the guys that are playing, there's an exception to the rule. And I know I hear it at the high school and the college level. Now we got this whole thing where you can be recruited as an athlete. So now it's not like I'm just a quarterback. Now they got this whole thing of you can be recruited as an athlete. and I think that's another way of, man, this boy's fast and he can jump. Like that's kind of, the way it is. And, with the affirmative action, all that stuff. And again, I've had a friend, like I said, I've been watching, just listening, and it was unfortunate. I saw a friend make a post of like, racism, you don't think I'm a white male and there's no privilege when I try to earn a job, but because of affirmative action, they got to bring in X amount or I could lose a job. And I'm like, again, we're missing it. So I almost don't like the point, like you said, well, we gotta interview when a job's open, we gotta interview at least one black guy. Then now we're to the gym, you gotta interview at least one black guy. Like to me, that's not gonna bring change. Like you said, if it's 70% of guys you're recruiting and drafting in the NFL are of a minority descent, then it's the same exact thing when they go out into the real world. Like you got a lot of, and I got friends that are doing it. I got a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but I got white buddies that police minority communities. Mm-hmm. Not saying they can't do it, but if that's the majority, and that's a disconnect. So it's the same exact thing that I think is being mirrored in the NFL. I don't want to go, all extreme and say it's a plot and all this stuff, but I mean, it hasn't changed yet. You know what I mean? Look at ownership.
There ain't no meritocracy.
You know what I mean? So
like the coach together, sir.
You look at ownership, and I know there's been people that's tried to buy teams and all that stuff. So right. I mean, I think it's just is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm one of those people. I've been raised to fight through, overcome, and not use things as an excuse. Have pride, and I think it's that's just where we're at. I don't we don't want no handouts. You know what I mean? But at the same time, the numbers don't even compare. Like it's not even close. So there should be no shock value when, somebody that's not of the majority that's just fighting for a little bit more piece of the pie, man. But that's what you said, Derek. That's why I love sports. And I ain't just talking about football. Sports in general bridges that gap. Mm-hmm. There's relationships that last forever that might not have ever happened. You know what I mean? And I think through sport, we've been able to break down a lot of those barriers, and hopefully we get this COVID figured out, because if it doesn't, and God forbid there's no fall sports, I think the temperature of the country is going to get worse. Because
with election day coming too?
Not that outlet.
Election day coming too?
Yeah. It's a long year. Jeez. Get 2020 out of here. 2020 needed.
I mean, it looks like the NBA is close to coming back, and MLS agreed, I think, today they've reached their agreement. So MLB is at the train wreck, and the NFL, I think the NFL's going to be back. I think the NFL's coming back at the right time, so I guess we'll see. And it's time for us to go. It's been a heck of a conversation. I thank you guys for really just laying it all out there for our listeners. And if you want to get in on all of our previous episodes, go check out our podcast anywhere podcasts can be found. This is Rams Brawl. You can find Tommy on Twitter. Where, Tommy?
At TPOP29.
Arlen Harris, where?
Arlen Harris 33, and also Train Run It.
Go on, Tommy. I didn't want to say it. There you go. And you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at DC Ciapala, and of course Rams Brawl at Rams Brawl on Twitter. Check out all of our other shows. We've had some really great break it down episodes the last couple of weeks, and we'll see you next week, hopefully with something better, a little more happier to talk about. We're out of here.
See ya.